Hey, what's going on, fam? Welcome to a new video. I think this is part 5 of the how to wholesale houses literally with no money out of your pocket. On this video, I want to talk about estimating repair costs, yo. So on the last video of this playlist, we talked about talking to motivated sellers, y'all. On this video, we got to talk about estimating repair costs without actually physically going out to see the property. And that's going to be all based on a conversation that we had with the seller. This is the part of the process where we got to do our due diligence. Before we run the comparable sales, we got to know what the condition of the property is in, again, based on a conversation that you have had with the seller. And in my opinion, it's 3 categories when it comes to the condition of a property. First and foremost, no work to little renovation, a mid-size renovation, or a heavy renovation, or a full gut renovation. And how do we determine this is, again, based off those questions that we asked to the seller. So if you're talking to a seller, how do we determine if it just needs a light renovation? So if a seller tells you something along the lines of, the property has been renovated maybe a year or 2 ago. It had tenants living in the property. However, it just needs to have some carpet or some floors replaced, or maybe the walls need to be repainted. That will be considered a light renovation. I'm gonna get into the numbers of that, but I'm trying to give you like a kind of like a view of what a light renovation would look like. Now, a mid-size renovation would be, maybe they gotta replace some carpet or some floors and do some paint, as well as maybe do some upgrades to the bathrooms or the kitchen. Like maybe they gotta replace some toilets, replace some cabinets, stuff like that. Not like they gotta completely gut the thing, but just they gotta start doing some upgrades to it. We will consider that a mid-size renovation. A heavy renovation would be, they gotta replace everything. I'm not including the mechanicals. I'm not including the plumbing. I'm not including the electric. I'm not including HVAC system. But they pretty much gotta replace everything, right? All the tubs, all the toilets, all the vanities, the cabinets, the countertops, everything. That's gonna be considered a heavy renovation. Now, when it comes to full gut renovation, I mean everything, that's when you will include all of the mechanicals on top of that. So again, little to light renovation, mid renovation, heavy renovation. Now let's talk about the actual numbers of these things. If the property is 1,500 square feet or less, the light renovation is going to be estimated to be $10,000. Mid renovation, $25,000. Heavy renovation, $50,000. Full gut renovation, $75,000. And this is for property specifically that's 1,500 square feet or less. No, your numbers is not going to be exact to the dime. All we are doing is getting an estimate, y'all. Don't worry about being super accurate. That is not your job. You are not a contractor. All right, for properties that are in between 1,500 to 2,500 square feet, a light renovation, carpet, paint, stuff like that, is going to be $15,000. Mid-size renovation, $35,000. A full renovation is going to be $75,000, and full gut, everything including mechanics, that's going to be $100,000 renovation. Again, you're not going to be exactly to the exact dime. That is not your job. Based on those conversations that you're having with the seller, that's how we're going to estimate how much this is going to cost you. So for the bigger houses, for houses that's between 3,500 to 5,000 square feet, a light renovation is going to be about $35,000. A mid-size renovation is going to be about $50,000 to $55,000. A full renovation is going to be about $75,000 to $90,000 renovation. Full gut, including mechanicals, is going to be about $125,000 renovation, y'all. So everything is based on the size of the property. Use those numbers to come up with the estimate. Now, let's talk about the kind of questions you should be asking the seller when it comes to the actual, renovation and how much you think the property is going to cost to actually renovate. We kind of talked about it a little bit in our last video, but let's kind of go into more detail real quick. So when you're talking to the seller and you coming up with all these numbers, remember, never leaving our house. We don't know what the property look like physically, right? We paint a picture based on what the seller is telling us, y'all. So what I don't want you to do is get super detailed and asking super detailed questions. We don't care the last time the plumbing has been replaced? Don't ask that right now, right? The reason we don't want to ask specific questions and detailed questions is because we're going to use that as leverage later down the road in the event we got to come down on price. So if we talking to a seller and they saying that it just needs carpet and paint, we're going to consider that a light renovation. When we get the property under contract and we sign and they sign, and then we start looking for buyers and we send the buyers through the properties, and the buyers coming back telling us this property needs carpet, paint, plus the plumbing got to be replaced, plus some new windows. Now we can bring that back up to the seller later if we need to come down on price. That's why we don't get super specific with the questions. We ask generic questions. You know, when the last time the kitchen has been updated? Stuff like that. Not super specific stuff, y'all. It's very important you remember that, because if we ever gotta come back down when it comes to price as leverage when we're talking to the seller, that's gonna save us. But if you ask too many detailed questions up front, the seller gonna be like, well, we covered that. I told you that it needed new windows and it needed new plumbing. And you won't be able to use that no more. So trust me, y'all, don't get too crazy with the questions, but stick to those numbers. And the reason I went over this before we start getting into running comparable sales is because we got to know the condition of the properties before we can run comparable sales to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. I hope that I didn't overcomplicate it when it comes to estimating repair costs. If I did, just drop some comments below and I'll try to clarify them in the comments, but I try to keep it straightforward, y'all. Again, you're not a contractor. You don't got to be an expert on repairs in construction, y'all. Trust me, I've been doing this for a long time. This is how we do it. It'll work for you as well. So I'll see you on the next video. On the next video, we'll probably talk about running comparable sales, y'all. Let's get it.